So before we get into implementing this week's readings into our drawing, I want to go over a bit of the exercise that was for last week, and that will lead us into the core content for this module. So if we can go back to our m6.js, I'm just going to, here we go. I'm just going to reveal this in the Finder. Let's open up, see where we are. There we go. Let's just see. Okay, so we have our click. That's where we were, and it will stop at 50. Okay, so let's go back here. So we want change our HTML page back to m6.js. Go back and refresh. Perfect. There's our random shapes that we had done to set up. Okay. So the first thing I want to look at, so I'm just going to get rid of this, is designing our own shape, right? And I'm just giving an example of what that might look like. So I'm not going to make a shape. I'm going to make a pattern, right? So I'm going to start off and I'm going to make a function right away. I'm going to call it squiggly, right? We're going to pass it an object, and then let's do our context begin path, right? And then I'm going to use the canvas quadratic curve 2, right? So if you go through the methods, you'll see a variety of things you can explore, but I want to use this quadratic curve 2 method. So we can get an idea here of what the points mean, right? We have our starting point, right? So we move to a point. The first two coordinates that we pass to it give us this point where the curve bends toward, and then the end point. So I'm going to use random to generate this. So context, let me see, make sure I got this quadratic curve 2, quadratic curve 2, and then we have 2 points, two sets of coordinates. So I'm just going to do, of course we need our, context move 2, right? And this will be O.X, O.Y. And then I'm going to do O.X plus random O.S, right? For size, O.X plus random O.S. For size, I'm just going to have a size, just one size variable for all this. And then just do that again. O.X plus rand O.S, O.Y plus rand O.S. And if I believe I need to update that one there, right? So we have an X coordinate, right? We're just adding some random, a Y coordinate, adding some random, another X coordinate, adding some random and whatnot. So then I want to do context stroke style equal to our hue, saturation, luminosity, alpha, right? We want a number, so I'm just going to put 260 in there for the moment. Then we need 100%, 50%, and then an alpha, right? And then we don't actually want that to be 260. Oops. We want it to be O.color, right? And remember, it's O.C because we're going to be passing in an object. So then we need to get the properties out of that object. So here I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go O.A. And then we need context stroke, right? Okay, so let's just create a variable. I'm going to call it O1 for object 1, right? And now we need to give it the parameters we need. So we need an X coordinate. So let's start it in the middle. just to have it somewhere to start, a y coordinate, and of course I've done that. That should be W. We need a color, which I'm going to give it to 60 for purple. And then for alpha, I'm just going to start off with 1. So now let's see if that works. So I'll call my squiggly function and pass it 01. And let's just see if this gives us what we, right? So, okay, do I have an error? No error. Let's see. Nothing. Oh, you know what I forgot? We need the size. So let's add our S property, and I'm going to give it a 30. Right, there we go. Now I have this little line in the center, right? Okay, so now I'm going to create more of a, I'm going to make this more complex. So I am just going to have, I'm going to do this a couple of times. So I'm just going to take this quadratic curve, copy it, paste it. Let's just see how that goes, right? So now we get somewhat of a squiggly line, and that's really what I'm going for, right? So we could do that a few more times. Let's do it 5 times, right? There we go. So now we have a little squiggly. Maybe I'll make it bigger just so that we can see it. Let's do 60, see how that does. There we go. So now we have this sort of squiggly line, right? So, this would constitute a shape or pattern that we're talking about. Of course, you could do it, you could make it different. This is definitely using the indeterminate generative strategy to create a shape slash pattern. But let's just look at this and go, okay, well, here I'm just calling this numerous times. So why don't we create our for loop, right? Less than, let's say 10 for the moment, I++. And then pop that inside our for loop. And then I can get rid of those. So now we're going to have 10 lines. Let's just see how that, right? There we go. Okay. So maybe you don't want that many, so I can always lower this down. Let's try 5 again, right? 5. Okay. I think I like 5. Now again, we could create another parameter here for num. Maybe I'll just do n for number. What am I doing? 5. And then I could just do o dot n. So, and the reason for doing this is that then we can increase this. We can update it as we create more and more, right? Okay, right, so there we've created a shape slash pattern, right? And definitely in this one versus drawing a square, which would be using deterministic process, here we're using indeterminate random process to generate more of a pattern. Okay, so I'll stop there for this video, and next video we'll get into drawing a square using, start with brute force and then use a for loop.